Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I look a little odd, but that's because we are going to be doing a small concealer review. So for today's review, I have the Milani Conceal and Perfect Longwear Concealer. And I picked up the shade 145 Warm Beige. Now, I believe this did have a large shade range, but the tones of the concealer were a little bit odd because one concealer was literally too dark and then the next one was too light. And then this one right here, it just feels like it's still not going to match me because I did swatch it and it still looks like a weird undertone to it. But we're going to try to make it work. So I have heard really good things about this, and as well this concealer only retails for $8.99. So I figured when I was doing my makeup, I might as well film the whole process to see if this concealer is any good. I do want to point out that when it comes to certain concealers, I feel like I have an extra trouble trying to find the perfect one just because I have a lot of issues under my eyes. I have really dark circles, I have texture, wrinkles, and my under eyes tend to be combination, which they start off dry and end up being oily. So I can really, well, my skin can really put a product to the test. So let's see if this is any good. Alright, so I already finished applying my foundation and my brows. And so let's get to the applying process of the concealer. So this is what the applicator looks like. It's just your typical doe foot shape brush. And I did not apply any color corrector today because I want to see what the coverage of this concealer is. So this concealer has a scent that reminds me to that Wet n Wild foundation. It's not as strong as a chemical scent, but you can definitely smell it. Alright, so that concealer did brighten it up, but I feel like you can still see my under eyes. I feel like it has a light to medium coverage. I do want to do just an extra dot of product where I can see the darkness right here, just to see, you know, what will happen if I would add some extra there. Alright, so it did provide just that extra coverage. For me personally, just the way that I'm looking under my under eyes, I feel like it has a medium coverage to it. It is buildable, but it is not full coverage just because I can still see some of the darkness. And now I am going to use a high-end powder, setting powder, and as well a drugstore powder, seeing what the difference is. Now these two powders are not comparable. Normally I would use my Maybelline Loose Fit Me powder, but I did run out of it. So this is the closest, best drugstore powder that I have on hand. So for my high-end powder, I'm gonna use the Laura Mercier translucent powder. And then for my drugstore powder, I am going to use the Airspun Naturally Neutral powder. Now this powder tends to really set things in place, and as well it can be drying at times. So hopefully it doesn't compromise the concealer. Alright, so I am going to set the rest of my face and to wipe off the loose setting powder with my Makeup Forever Matte Velvet Skin Powder Foundation. Alright, so let me get my glasses on so that I can be able to see. Alright, so looking at everything together, everything looks good. The only complaint that I have is that it does emphasize some of the structure, some of the texture that I have under my eyes. Now I have these small little bumps right where my eye bag tends to fall right here. I'm not sure why. Really should probably look into it, but I feel like it is because sometimes when I over moisturize my under eyes, it tends to cling onto that moisture cream and bunch up. But that's just my theory. Now I'm no professional, and this is just going based off of what I see on my skin. And so what's weird is that it did do that with my Laura Mercier powder, but you can barely even see that with my airspun powder. So you can see more texture on this side versus this side. So that's why it's always a good thing to always test out a concealer with your different types of powders, because formulas do tend to work very different depending on the style of powder. And that is one thing that I personally don't like, because I feel like if it is a great concealer, it's gonna work the same no matter what type of powder you use. For example, I can name quite a few that I can use with whichever powder. My e.l.f. Camel Concealer, I can use the Benefit Concealer, the Tarte Concealer. Those products tend to work really great no matter what type of powder I put on top of it. So I am going to finish off the rest of my makeup, let some time go by, seeing how this concealer doing so far, because to be honest, right off the bat, concealer is just one thing that I'll be able to tell if I'm going to like it or not. Alright guys, so now that I have all my makeup on, looking at my under eyes, I mean, they look okay. They do not look wowing or anything like that, how I first reacted on some other concealers that I have first tried. Now for the price point, it is doing very well. It is not creasing. It hasn't oxidized from what I can tell. I feel like it could do a better job on the coverage. Now, would I recommend this? No, just because there is better drugstore concealers out there. Like for example, the e.l.f. Camel Concealer. I feel like that one is way better. The coverage, how it sets beautifully. And I believe the e.l.f. concealer is cheaper than this. I believe it's $6. Yeah, so the e.l.f. concealer is $6, so I definitely recommend that. Now, please do keep in mind of all the issues that I have under my eyes. You could be someone that doesn't have anything under there. You are blessed. So this concealer will probably do 10 times better under your eyes versus mine. Now, the other concealer that I also would recommend that does for me, that has more perks, is as well the Jordana concealer, which that one retails for $5 as well. And it sets beautifully as well. It's very lightweight versus the e.l.f. concealer. The e.l.f. concealer has a more thicker consistency. And as well, I find that I can use that with any setting powder and it does not oxidize. It does have a medium coverage, but the shade that I picked up makes it look like it has that extra coverage, if you guys know what I mean. But I really do enjoy those other two drugstore concealers versus this one. Now I am going to keep it just because I do go through concealers like crazy. I love wearing it and I love testing them out as well. Now I hope you guys enjoyed this small review of the Milani concealer. Let me know down below if you have picked this up or if you are going to pick it up. Now don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and as well click the notification button so that way you don't miss next upload. I do thank you for joining me today and we'll see you on the next one.